Yeah, so thank you very much and welcome to our office in Wageningen. Maybe can you introduce yourself just briefly?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. My name is Iman Bashir. I come from Sudan. I did my PhD research in spate irrigation. I was always inspired by spate irrigation since I was working in a project related to spate irrigation in Sudan and in Pakistan and Yemen and Ethiopia. Actually, my research in spate irrigation was very interesting that I looked at the risk that is facing the spate irrigation from the farmer perspective and water managers. So I looked, I kind of come with what type of risks farmers are facing based on climate factors and based on also non-climatic factors. So I evaluated those risks and find what type of risk in terms of these points, and then I looked at also at the coping strategies the farmers have developed and the water managers have developed. It was so interesting results that and then I came up with also evaluation of the practice that they do in terms of engineering point of view, that I studied how the farmer practice at field level. So I studied the irrigation performance at field levels, and I studied using irrigation modeling. So I came out with a type of interventions that the farmers can do to increase the irrigation performance efficiency, and this was kind of interesting, and it could save 40% of the water and the time, so that we can make use of this water for other fields further downstream. I also look at the decision making for the farmers. How do they make decisions? And based on these decisions, I looked at what type of interventions the government should do on those decisions, because there are some good decisions they can do, but the problem is that these decisions are not widely adopted because of some constraints. So, and though these decisions are very efficient, so I looked at those decisions from three parts: from the farmers and water user associations and water managers. Also, I developed a conceptual framework for flexibility adoption in the spate irrigation, which is very important, because based on that conceptual framework, you can avoid a lot of failure problems that already happening in the spate irrigation system. Yes, so I came out of with that project, research project, that in the spate irrigation, actually a lot of lessons could be learned from there for the climate change impacts and how to deal with this in terms of adaptation and risk management, and this could be even adopted in wider scope in other things which is not spate irrigation, but they can give a lot of lessons that we can even take over with us for other problems related to climate change and
Okay.
uncertainty.
And where did the research take place, the fieldwork for your research?
Yes, it was in Sudan, in eastern Sudan, in an area called Gash irrigation scheme, which is depending on floods from Gash River, which is it has a lot of uncertainty and impact of climate change, and climate variability is very high over there.
And what is the size of the Gash system?
It's
The
more than
area you looked at?
100,000 hectares.
100,000 hectares.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so it's a kind of, and there are a lot of other things which are non climatic, which is really give a lot of challenge in that scheme, which has to do with social and conflicts between farmers and tribal things and institutional.
Yeah.
So it was so challenging.
Okay. And how did you become interested in spate irrigation?
Actually, the first time I get to know spate irrigation, although I was living in Sudan, it was in 2010, where I have to work with that project. It was a very good chance for me, I think, because it made me understand how nice the systems and how special they are. And so this gave me inspiration for doing my PhD in this area.
Okay. And what are you planning to do with the results of your research?
Well, actually, those results now need to be like more practical in terms of like giving this message to the decision makers, because those systems, unfortunately, although they are very rich, but they need support in the beginning for farmers to know how precise systems they do have. But they need some support from the government and decision makers until they get to have all the financial inputs run by themselves. So I think I have a lot of takeover message from there, and I have also a lot of good ideas with regard which came from spate irrigation, With regard to other things that of interest nowadays is like regenerating agriculture, which is basically like taking lessons from the spate irrigation. You can apply this in this spate in the regenerative agriculture, which depends on, you know, everything is just natural, and you don't add a lot of chemicals, you don't add a lot of farming practice. So we can all this applies in regenerative agriculture. Similarly for water management, you can have similar lesson from spate irrigation to water management in terms of collaboration, in terms of decision making, incorporating all the stakeholders. So there are a lot of to do from spate irrigation in other areas.
And from maybe one last question is from the Gash system, what would be a lesson you want to share with the flood-based livelihood network? Maybe a lesson they can also apply in other spate irrigation systems in other countries.
Yes, I would say that the flexibility, how to incorporate flexibility in other spate irrigation system, this can turn a lot the failure of big spate irrigation system, which has been funded largely by development projects, and they failed. But why, if you have a look at these flexibility points and criteria that you could incorporate since the design or the planning time, then you could have avoided these failures. So I think this is the main point that takes this flexibility, but there are some conditions for taking this flexibility that you have to look at from the beginning.
Okay, and is it the flexibility, is it for anyone involved in the system or for specific stakeholders?
No, it's stakeholders together with you know, the farm. You start with the farmers, with you, with water managers, then you look at from the beginning. There are 4 questions you have to answer about why is it flexibility for, what's your goals, so you will define your goals, and what are the, how you can obtain these, and what are the enablers. So from the beginning you will know what type of problems you have, and if you have this problem, you have a pre-planned ideas on how can I manage this, and then you are ready for every unknown things. So you have to be prepared. So this is the point, that you have to be prepared with different options, with real options, with enablers, with sometimes of connectivity with other system, you know, with other. There are a lot of things that you need to look in this flexibility approach.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your lessons.